For Monday Mortgage Minute with your hosts, Tom McNamara and Bruce Woodburn.
All right. Good afternoon.
How we doing today, Bruce?
Monday.
It's been Monday already.
It has been Monday already, but you know what? I had an active weekend and I had a great month for new business. For March, it was incredible. New buyer leads were up by like 15%. So it was a
Wow.
really solid, real solid for new applications and people inquiring about the market, which is interesting because nationally houses are up, but locally they're a little flat, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, what I'm about to say is very anecdotal. But as I'm looking at houses anywhere from 400 to 600 right now, I've got a buyer that I'm working with in that price range, and it seems like the houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer. Not long, not months, but 30 days, 45 days. And the sellers are not getting list price anymore. They're taking a little bit of a haircut. Not a huge. They're not dropping 50 grand. But they're taking, 5, 8, 10 grand off the list price. And they may also be doing some seller concessions. I hadn't pulled that data, but yeah, and I'm getting a lot of calls back from agents as I show the houses saying, hey, make an offer. We're about to drop the price and things like that, like trying to entice my buyer, into making an offer. So,
Right.
it's a little bit of downward
Isn't
pressure.
the average for a good sale, aren't you around between 97 and 98% of ask price? Isn't that generally accepted?
It absolutely is. But up until a few months ago, we were seeing 99, 100, 102%,
Right.
And houses were selling in a weekend or 2 weeks. And now they're just, like I said,
Well, and
they're
I
just taking a little
honestly, I
bit
think if interest rates don't drop, you're going to probably see a little bit more of that. So interest rates dropping is going to benefit buyers and sellers. That's for sure. And
Yep.
and although Powell came out on Friday and said that we're expected to see three potential more decreases in the Fed rate, I don't see that happening until at least late June or July. And even if that happens, he's not going to make substantial rate cuts. It's going to be a quarter of a point, and then he's going to wait for 3 more months, and then maybe another quarter of a point. But right now, we're still seeing inflation up. I mean, we're seeing it everywhere. And I don't see that interest rates can be cut until we get that under control.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, I'm not sure if you've got data on this, but I'm also seeing that credit card balances are at an all-time high.
Well, that's why I'm doing so many cash out refinances right now. I mean, I've got people, I would bet you close to 25 to 30% of the business that I've got right now are people that are inquiring about either a home equity line of credit to consolidate debt or just going ahead and pulling the trigger and consolidating into one mortgage. Um, and that's been working famously. But yeah, I think we just got a little sloppy with our spending habits, and and people are starting to realize that they got to get it under control. So a, a debt reconsolidation is really popular right now for us.
Got you. So, you think the Fed is going to start dropping rates as we head into the summer, unless we get a massive inflation spike again?
Well, if inflation stays the way it is, I don't think they're going to drop rates at all. I mean, I know that it makes the country feel better when he says that we're expecting rates to get cut, but he does that, and then a week later we get the numbers out, and then he retracts it again, and he does that every doggone time. This guy, all he's doing is shaking up the market for no reason. Why don't we just tell it like it is? Hey, we're still working on getting inflation under control. We'll let you know. And as soon
Yeah,
as that happens, you can expect a rate cut. But until then, don't worry about it. It's going to stay the same.
right.
That'd be the honest thing to say.
Got you. Okay.
But then our government is known for their honesty.
Well, that's true. We were talking about the buying power that people have, right? And you tripped on something really really interesting. Let's
Yeah,
talk about the buying power for a first time home buyer.
I was watching on Fox News that they said a first time home buyer needs to make $76,000 per year to buy a home, where 4 years ago it was only 41.5.
Oh,
41.5 for a first-time home buyer 4 years ago. Now it's 76,000. The irony behind that is if you are wanting a first-time home buyer program for like down payment assistance or something that nature,
mhm.
you can't make in most cases, you cannot make more than about $62,000 or else you no longer qualify for down payment assistance. So we've got that gap in there that you need to make this much, but you're not going to get the down payment assistance if you make that much.
Yeah, typical government issue, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully they figure out how to adjust those
Well, they're going to
numbers.
have to based on the average median income. I mean,
Hmm.
that's where these down payment assistance numbers come from. Um, and average median income is not going up right now.
Not
So
that much, if at
it's
all,
not
right?
going up that much, but the cost of living is. So
Right.
we're in a bit of a quagmire here until we get that straightened out.
Now you did mention some good news on my favorite program, the Hometown Heroes program.
Yes. So Hometown Heroes is coming out. They're gonna infuse another $100 million. You don't have to be you don't have to be a hero any longer,
Right.
but you do have to be a first-time home buyer, which means you cannot have owned a primary residence in the last 3 years or lived in the primary residence in the last 3 years. But it gives you a substantial amount of
Hmm.
down payment assistance to the tune of 5% of the loan amount. So it's a big deal. And the income limits are much higher.
Right.
So you can make up into the $130,000 a year income bracket with that. And you can have non-occupying co-borrowers, which most down payment assistance programs don't last. That the warning that I'm going to give you, if you're listening out there, whether you're a potential buyer, seller, or a real estate agent would be that money will probably not last more than 3 to 4 weeks because it's available for the entire country and we're not limited it to first responders or teachers or what we
The,
call heroes.
the whole
So,
state, not the whole country.
oh, excuse me, I didn't mean the country, the whole
Yeah,
state. Right. Sorry.
but it's a
So
100 million, right? And that's how much we burned through last summer in about
last
3
summer, they
weeks.
got 100 million. It lasted for 3.5 weeks. So the idea here, if you're listening, you want to get your loan fully approved. So don't wait. Give me a call. Apply online at webringyouhome.com or call the number below. But you want to be fully approved. So let's just say I got you fully approved, and you go into contract to buy a home uh, with Tom. Well, that money's not going to be available till July 1st. Well, you'd have to delay the closing and switch the loan to a Hometown Heroes at that point. So my point is get your loan pre-approved, ready to go. So 30 days prior, so say June 1st, you're out looking at homes, you go into contract, your realtor is going to have to notify the listing agent that you're going to switch on that date to Hometown Heroes and confirm that you've qualified for the down payment assistance. And then we'll get it done and you're into a home and you can get a bunch of money from the state of Florida.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. I love that program. I just I'm amazed that they can burn through that much money that fast. You know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people here and there's a lot of people that want the money. Hey, here's one other thing. I was looking at national news on this, Tom, and it said that housing sales were up 10% from January the previous year, and median sales prices rose by 5.7% from February to February. 5.7%. That's almost 6%. That's a huge increase. But as fate would have it, we're not seeing that right here in Central Florida as much.
No, I don't think we are. I think we're a little lagged on that. So we last year, the rest of the market, the rest of the country, most of it experienced a little bit of a downturn where prices dropped and sales dropped, and we really didn't. And then now this year, everybody else is kind of coming back, and I think we're starting to see that lag. But it's good news about you getting all those buyer leads coming in for applications, because that tells me that over the next 6 months things are going to start picking back up again.
That's right. So you should expect in the next 2 to 3 months more sales. I think if we could just get interest rates down even a quarter to a half of a point, I think the market would stimulate a little bit more. And then, it's interesting. I got a question from a real estate agent last week. It was a really good question. And they said, if a seller now is willing to pay the buyer's agent's commission, does that fall into the IPC, or interested party contributions? So just so all of you out there listening understand that on a conventional loan for an owner occupied property, if you put down less than 10%, the seller is limited to a 3% concession. Does that real estate commission fall into that category? So I'm going to tell you it won't fall into that category, because the seller will compensate the agent, not the buyer.
Yeah,
So
so
I think you're safe.
On the HUD, instead of the
The CD,
it's basically
CD,
what a CD HUD, whatever you want to call it these days. Alta,
well, since
there's all these
2010.
so hey, when you buy cash, it's still a HUD.
It's true.
So, but anyway, on the closing documents, they'll just show the buyer's commission, the buyer's agent's commissions coming out of the
Paid
seller,
by the seller.
just like it does today.
So I wouldn't concern you, but I'll tell you this much,
It's a
because
good question, though.
it was a great question. It was a great question by a great real estate agent that's been doing this for a long time. But what's interesting too, Tom, is that all these sellers were thinking that they're going to get a break in commission, but now we're seeing a slowing in the market. So sellers are going to have to get aggressive to get those real estate agents to show their property, because
Absolutely.
the builders are going to pay 2.5 to 3% right off the bat.
Absolutely.
And in some cases, they're given bonuses. So if a traditional seller wants to compete, they're going to have to get aggressive on attracting the buyer's agents to show their property.
Absolutely. Hey, as a matter of fact, I wanted to bring up on Thursday. I am going to be doing I'm going to be involved in our discussion panel, right? So we're going to talk about this whole thing with the buyer's agent, the seller's agent. We've got a lender, we've got a title agent, we've got an attorney, and myself, right? I'm the realtor. And we're going to be talking about how we see it playing out and how it's going to impact. And I've been paying attention to a lot of other people, and there's a lot of information out there. I don't know if it's all good,
And
bad, right,
disinformation.
wrong. There's misinformation, there's disinformation, there's opinions, there's tons of opinions. We'll see how it all shakes out, but it's definitely going to be an interesting year in real estate.
Why don't you put up on here the screen the link so people could? I definitely want to watch that.
Yeah, there's a link up on the screen right now to the YouTube channel where it's going to be broadcast live.
Take a screenshot of that if you're watching right now, so you don't miss it, and that way you can tune in to Tom McNamara, EXP, one of Central Florida's best, most knowledgeable real estate agents. It's a joy to work with you. It's a lot of fun to do this show with you, but I'll tell you something. If you're looking for an agent to represent you, you won't go wrong by choosing Tom. That's for sure.
Appreciate that, Bruce. And as always, you're my go-to loan guy.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate all of our listeners watching out there and listening. If you have comments, suggestions, if you have topics that you'd like us to cover, please email or text Tom or I, and we'll make sure that we address that issue.
All right, Bruce, we got to take off. Hope you have a wonderful day.